Welcome to the CCG Museum. This is the first video in my new terminology series. These will be shorter form videos, aimed at informing newer members of the CCG community about terminology they may encounter with some regularity from other CCG enthusiasts. Today's term is the Big Three. The Big Three are the games Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! These three games are the three best-selling, longest-living CCGs out there. All three have been continuously supported and sold since their introduction in the 1990s. While the number one spot has at times been taken up by games not part of the Big Three, no other game has managed to maintain the longevity that these three have. Other games come and go, some games keep coming back, but the Big Three persist. Now, if you were wondering if I have plans to ever make videos about the Big Three, the short answer is, aside from this one, no. The primary focus of the CCG Museum is to chronicle the history of games that are more easily forgotten, in the hopes that they won't be. The Big Three are all so big with such large fan bases that they already have built-in chroniclers of their own. Just look on YouTube and you are guaranteed to find dozens, if not hundreds, of channels dedicated to each and every one of these games. Channels that cover their current news and histories, gameplay and strategies, behind-the-scenes drama, tournament reports, comedy channels, and much more. Frankly, there isn't much for me to add to the discourse when it comes to the Big Three because almost anything I could say has already been said and to much greater depth. However, since the point of terminology videos is to provide information to newcomers who might not know anything at all about CCGs, I will provide very brief histories so they can have at least a basic idea of what the Big Three are. Magic the Gathering is the granddaddy of all CCGs. It was the first true collectible card game. Created by math professor Richard Garfield and originally published in 1993 by plucky startup company Wizards of the Coast, Magic was an immediate success beyond anybody's wildest dreams. Not only did it launch Richard Garfield's game designer career and cause Wizards of the Coast to skyrocket to the big leagues of game publishers, it began an entirely new genre of games that took the world by storm. From its inception, Magic has always been the 800-pound gorilla of the CCG world. There have been plenty of times where other games have sold more cards from month to month, but Magic always finds its way back to the top spot sooner or later. With well over 100 releases of just the normally scheduled sets with at least as many special limited release products, Magic has enough cards to choke a camel. It's been officially released in over 150 countries and can be found in 10 languages. That doesn't include cards in languages that were invented for various Magic settings, such as Phyrexian. Wherever you go, if there are gamers, you'll almost certainly be able to find people who play Magic the Gathering. The Pokemon TCG is a trading card game based on the worldwide phenomenon that is the Pokemon franchise. The word Pokemon is a Japanese portmanteau of the English words pocket and monster, as the games revolve around little monsters you stuff into balls that you keep in your pockets. Originally a video game for the Nintendo Game Boy, Pokemon released in Japan in early 1996 and was soon followed by the TCG that same year. 1997 would see the release of a manga and an anime based on the IP. In 1998, the anime, video game, and the TCG all arrived in North America, taking over game stores like a burst dam takes over an unsuspecting town. From 1998 to 2003, Wizards of the Coast handled the North American distribution of the Pokemon TCG, though in 2003 the Pokemon Company would assume that role. Already a wildly popular IP in Japan, Pokemon was an instant success in America as well, and for quite a while it was the number one CCG. It has much simpler rules than Magic does, as it is a game intended for a younger audience. While many people do play Pokemon to this day, and it clearly has a competitive scene, the truth is that most of the strength of the Pokemon TCG relies on it being collected by children who want the cards more for the fact that they have Pokemon on them than the fact that it is a game that you can play. While the Pokemon TCG doesn't have quite as many releases as Magic, it still has over 100 sets released and can be found in 14 different languages. And of course, none of that is to mention the many Pokemon video games and anime series there are out there. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the youngest of the Big Three, though keep in mind that young is a relative term here. Starting out as a manga in 1996, Yu-Gi-Oh! Quickly gained in popularity and was turned into an anime in 1998. A CCG based on the franchise was released in 1999 and quickly shot up to the tops of the sales charts. It has close to, if not over, 100 sets released and is in 9 different languages. For Americans, one thing that immediately sticks out is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Uses a noticeably smaller card size than most CCGs they will be familiar with. Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards are roughly 3¼ inches tall by 2¼ inches wide. Most American CCGs are very similar in size to Magic the Gathering, at roughly 3½ inches tall by 2½ inches wide. I understand that many CCGs of Japanese origin use this smaller size, though clearly not all of them do, as Pokemon cards have used the 3½ inch by 2½ inch size since its very first set. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a much larger competitive scene than Pokemon has, though I get the impression, and maybe I'm wrong, but I get the impression that competitive players from other games view Yu-Gi-Oh! With a bit of disdain. Apparently, power creep is a serious issue with Yu-Gi-Oh! Card sets, which is especially a problem for collectors who also enjoy playing, as older cards quickly lose any place they may have had in competitive or semi-competitive environments. Despite this, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has managed to remain a constant bestseller. Not only is the CCG still running strong, but they also keep making more animes and video games based off of the IP, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. So now you know what the big 3 are. Thank you for attending this terminology lesson. Please let us know in the comments what you thought of the video, and what terms you might like us to explain in the future. Have fun out there, and always remember to cut the deck.